Wow, James Gunn throwing some serious shade. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about what James Gunn recently said during an interview about those last days of the DCEU and one particular person who was trying to force everyone's hand and failed miserably. I think you know who we're talking about, right, Dwayne? Now that Superman is finally out and the DC Universe has some positive energy, the film is set to cross $400 million this weekend, well, James Gunn is doing the interview rounds and he's pulling the curtain back on some of the stuff that happened right as he came on. Now, if you remember correctly, James Gunn came into the DC Universe kind of at a weird time. There was a bunch of movies queued up to come out, with Black Adam being one of the first ones. And that movie generated some buzz with Henry Cavill's return. Now, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson actually made repeated attempts to kind of spoil this in advance, and cued everyone in on this, quote, surprise return of Henry Cavill. It was very apparent to anybody looking at it from the outside he was attempting to muscle in on the situation and try to force WB management to basically put him in charge of the DC Universe, effectively building it around his Black Adam character. Not a lot of ego there, right? Now, this included several projects, including a Hawkman movie and a Man of Steel 2 with an eventual Superman and Black Adam showdown. To be fair, Cavill's return was met with a pretty positive response, and apparently he even shot a Flash cameo alongside Michael Keaton's Batman and Sasha Kelly's Supergirl. But Black Adam bombed and DC Studios was formed shortly thereafter. Now, this was set to be led by James Gunn and Peter Safran, and their initial ideas right from day one was to reboot the DCU with a brand new Superman movie and actor, despite the fact that they were saying that Henry Cavill was back. Now, recently, when James Gunn was talking to Josh Horowitz, he kind of revealed the true story behind Cavill's departure and what happened behind the scenes. He said, quote, "It's terrible. Believe it or not, the day we were dealing with trying to figure out if we could take the job at DC Studios, the day the deal closed, all of a sudden they were announcing Henry is back. And I was like, what is going on? We know what the plan is. The plan is to come in and do Superman. It was really unfair to him and a total bummer. There was a vacuum at the time, and a lot of people they had a take on what they wanted to do at DC, and they were trying to force their way, and it was just never part of the equation for David Zaslav. We came in, and that was really unfortunate. I'm like, this poor guy. Henry was an absolute gentleman and a great guy about it, and he said, the only thing I ask is I am able to reveal it myself as opposed to it coming from you guys. And I'm like, that is a class act. Now, this speaks volumes about what was going on during that time period and definitely is throwing a ton of shade at Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It was super apparent to everybody on the outside how he was trying to strong-arm his way in. And it was an absolute, at least in Hollywood, massive career fail for the actor. Now, as far as Henry Cavill goes, well, this kind of makes me like the guy even more and more. He was never the problem with his version of Superman. It was always the story for me. And the way Cavill seemed to handle this, wanting it to come from himself, well, that really does show that he is indeed a class act. Now, this is where it gets kind of cool though, because James Gunn said maybe the days for Henry Cavill are not over. In that same interview, he said, I talked to him about it the other day. I would love to put Henry in something. Now, I've heard a lot of suggestions on where Henry Cavill could show up. People's brains would explode if he actually was the new Batman, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. Actually, if you're paying close attention to what Gunn is doing, he's got many pieces for another superhero group in place, and that would be the Terrifics. Typically, the Terrifics is Mr. Terrific, who's already on the scene, Metamorpho, who we already have, but then includes Phantom Girl, and we know James Gunn is a fan of the Legion of Superheroes, as well as what I think would be a great cast for Henry Cavill, Plastic Man. Now, if this comes to light, we have absolutely no idea, but I do love a couple things about this. It's sad Henry Cavill got played and used, and I'm going to use the word used, by people involved in the previous situation. But the fact that he handled it with class and basically kept a great relationship with James Gunn and the folks at DC, I would love to see him return in a big way and get rewarded for all of this. Cavill seems to be a great guy, but he's had quite a few misses in the last couple of years, and he definitely deserves the boost to his career. We like seeing good people win, and Cavill seems to be a good person. So hopefully, sometime in the very near future, we get some more details about his potential return into the DCU, and you never know, he could be one of the major faces and players in the future, and that definitely would make for some interesting conversations amongst the fandom. If that actually works out, well, we're gonna have to wait and see. Before we take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC news, and we want to bring you all the news truthfully and transparently so you're really in the know.